is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
All right, there he is, the man, the myth, the legend. That is Manny Navarro. How you feeling, baby? You feeling good?
Feeling great. Oh, how are you?
Well, I was excellent until I had that hot dog and Dairy Queen yesterday on the drive back.
Oof, that's always risky to have a hot dog at Dairy Queen.
Yeah, I should have known better. I just wanted to change it up because I always eat a lot of chicken or fish because I've got gout, so I really can't like eat meat all the time.
Right.
And I go, oh, you know what? I'll have a hot dog, and bro, I've had the longest night of my life. I don't even know how I'm doing the show right now. Oof. I'm as dehydrated as it gets right now.
You are a warrior.
Look, put it this way. You have to get out of bed because your body is so cramped up.
Oh, yeah, it's not a pleasant experience.
Cramp, calf, it's like, and then you turn one way and then the other leg gets cramped up and you're like, what the, and it was just so dehydrated from my body. Just, I made the bitch from The Exorcist look like she ain't got nothing on me, dude. Okay.
Wow.
All right.
Rough night in the Alzugaray home.
Oh my God.
And Manny, this is coming from the guy that eats glazed donuts. That's all he gets, glazed donuts. But yet he'll stop and get a hot dog on the trap.
I wanted to change it up, man. What an idiot I am. In Dairy Queen, please cook your dogs, bro, or something. My God, it looked normal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But that there's a reason why you want the one that's been on the spinner for like 8 hours, because it's cooked at least. Might be overcooked, but at least it's cooked. This one, it looked good, but maybe it wasn't all the way done there, So, yeah, Dairy Queen, wow.
Yeah, not my choice for hot dogs.
No, stick to ice cream. Yeah, that's about it. Stick to hot dogs. Stick to ice cream there at Dairy Queen. All right, so the offensive coordinator job, we're hearing all kinds of names. Doug Nussmeier, Scott Frost. Does he carry around a picture of Lawrence Phillips? I'm sorry. Dan Mullen, Marcus Arroyo, Jeff Scott, James Coley, which you've mentioned a couple of times. What can you tell us?
Yeah, I think they're all interesting. I can tell you that Mario obviously isn't giving away a whole lot of information. If you think about last year's search, and Bruce Feldman and I thought pretty much described exactly how it went a couple months later when it was all said and done. We wrote that story in May. He talks to a lot of people, and ultimately Gaddis wasn't his first choice. He had other guys that he had offered the job to first. Bryles was one of them. I know he wanted him. I know he was interested in him. Jason Candle, who's the coach at Temple. I know he's been mentioned a few times. So I right now, honestly, I think, this is just me thinking and talking to different people. I could see a scenario where you have sort of a co-OC type job.
Running coordinator and a passing coordinator.
Right, where maybe you have two guys, and that might allow you to get somebody like a James, Coley, who can come in and really, I think, help you on the recruiting front with receivers. If you think about Miami's receiver recruiting the last few years and the amount of guys that have left town that have been elite wide receivers that go to Ohio State or go to Alabama or Georgia.
Brian Hartline, yes.
Right, all those kind of guys. I think that's why I think bringing in James Coley as part of a combination probably makes the most sense. Another name that I kind of threw out there yesterday that I think makes sense for the same reason Nussmeier does is T. Martin. T. Martin's the former coordinator there at not at Alabama, but at Tennessee. He's with the Ravens now. He's a wide receivers coach. Ravens have to hire a new offensive coordinator. That new offensive coordinator but want to bring in some guys. T. Martin's son, Caden, plays baseball at Miami, and he's a true freshman. So I think that's another interesting name. And Nussmeier, for people who don't know the whole story, yes, he's been in the NFL for the last 5 years. Yes, he's up for the Ravens job, but he also has a son named Garrett, who is a former 4-star quarterback who's been on the roster for 2 years at LSU and isn't starting yet, but has played a whole lot in sort of a backup role. So maybe he wants to come to college, right? There's a reason to come to college and be an offensive coordinator, or to share that responsibility with a James Coley or somebody of that ilk. He can bring his son along as well. So those are all reasons why I think some of those names make more sense than others. The one thing I will say, there's always sort of like a pecking order, right? And we've talked about this before when it comes to hiring process. Alabama still hasn't hired their offensive coordinator. That's the best job, I think, in college football if you're going to be a coordinator, offensive or defensive coordinator at Alabama or Georgia, because those are the two premier programs. You go from there to a really good head coaching job in college, most likely. Tommy Rees is a guy who Mario showed an interest last time. He's the offensive coordinator at Notre Dame. A year ago, Miami fans were poo-pooing that, saying, no, not Tommy Rees. There's no way I'd want that guy. He had a pretty good year with, I think, his third-string quarterback. They won 9 games. So he's looking at Alabama right now. So, again, I think after Alabama, and Nick Saban sort of find their guy, that may affect who ends up coming to Miami.
Okay. When do you think this decision is going to be made? Well, he's, they got to get it done before spring football. Spring football, right?
Yeah, spring football is March 4th, the start of it. I think if you come in maybe 2 weeks.
You got to get it in within the next week or two so the guy can start to implement his offense, right?
Well, you would think. I mean, in all honesty, these kids, remember, they only have a certain amount of hours they can work with the kids anyway during the offseason. The NCAA has rules in place for all of that. So in terms of him getting a chance to spend a lot of time with those players, whoever it is, they're sort of limited. That said, he can certainly come in and give them 2 weeks to learn sort of the base playbook and sort of the base language. So I think anywhere, if you give it from 2 to 3 weeks, which if you start counting back from March 4th, I got to call my calendar up here. But if you start counting back from March 4th, if I can get my damn calendar to work. This is what happens when you switch computers. I have an Apple now because that's what the Athletics sent me.
You're learning. So this is your first Apple?
No, I've had Apple before many years ago, but I was on PC for a long time. So it's like a mission. Before you could just click on the calendar and boom, there it is. There's the calendar, and I had it for anyway. You just start doing the math backwards. It's around probably the middle of February, right? So I would say if you're February 14th, Valentine's Day 15th, somewhere around there, that's enough time for a guy to come in, have a few weeks to implement what he wants to implement in terms of giving them the information, and then go from there, and then, kind of go through spring practice. The one thing I will tell all Miami fans is, spring football, while we all think it's important, it's great when you can get true freshmen in early, and Miami has 15 true freshmen in early that are enrolled and already, going through workouts. So many guys have surgery in the spring. There's so many guys that are always out that it's not as productive as I think you want it to be. And so in the end, it's really about those first 2 weeks in fall practice and what those guys do over the summertime, what Tyler Van Dyke does with those receivers, working with the playbook over the summertime. That's when you build that connection. And so I wouldn't worry too much about, hey, is he only in 2 weeks before the start of spring football? There's just always so many guys out that I almost think that it's like, well, okay, you kind of got it implemented, but it's really on the players to do what they have to do in the offseason to get it right.
All right. Any other Canes news, recruiting wise? Anything else we need to keep up with?
No, man. I mean, really, it's been very slow. I mean, signing day came and went, and they went after this kid Jamel Howard. They had him visiting on campus, and he ended up a 3-star defensive tackle from the Chicago area. He ended up committing and I think signing with Wisconsin. So that was sort of the last guy that they made a little bit of a mini effort to. I've told you many times, I think after spring football is over, when that new window opens up for the transfer portal in May, that's going to be a really, really important time, because you're going to have guys after spring football who are going to hit the road, who are going to say, you know what, there's no way I'm ever going to play here. I see what the writing on the wall, and they're going to take off. And so Mario's going to have to fill some needs again. So I think as far as roster management and changes, I think we probably see that delayed until after spring football, when some guys have to make decisions, and then it comes to summer enrollment.
All right, they don't require you to follow up too much with the basketball team.
No, to be honest, it's a great story. I think Larinaga's done a tremendous job.
Oh, he's awesome.
He's got him ranked in the top 25. I think the NIL with John Ruiz, the players that they were able to go out and sign and bring in part because of NIL. I mean, to me, NIL, if you really if we still cared about college basketball like we did back in the day, because I know it's not as sexy to you as it was.
No,
Just
not
think
at all.
about if NIL had really existed back then, right? And everything was legal, and you could have just paid guys to come to your team, and have like legitimate free agency. Miami might have been where Florida was a couple years ago, where they won a national championship with Billy Donovan, right? You could have been able to attract some big time kids to come down here, and so. But that's where it really, to me, where you see the real effect of NIL is probably a sport like basketball or even baseball, right? Like the baseball program.
Because you don't need in basketball, you only need a couple guys to really make a difference.
You get two or three studs, you can be in the Sweet 16 every year. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely.
So I think that Miami's basketball program's in a very, very good place, and it's nice to see that it's working for them. Because I don't want to call Miami a basketball school, but until the football team turns it around, that's kind of the sexiest sport on campus right now. So, it is what it is. But great job by Larrañaga. Look, I think what are they 8-4 or something like that in the ACC when they're going
they
into this game
are
against
8-4, 17-5, 8-4.
Yes. I watch it from afar. I mean, I'm not there to go.
Me too.
I watch it from afar.
And they're the only ones I watch, actually, because I don't really watch a lot of. I just don't enjoy college basketball that much anymore. It's not the same, dude. It's just the same.
It is, and some of the best players now go overseas right after high school, and it's just
or the G League,
right? There's so many other avenues
right away, dude.
I mean, I enjoy March Madness. I still enjoy the conference tournaments. Like when we get to the conference tournament time, and those guys are busting their butt to get in and on the bubble, and then you go to March Madness and the actual tournament. Those things are enjoyable to watch for a couple of weeks. But you're right, it's not the same animal that was before, when the Big East was the Big East, and we had college basketball sort of with the best players in the world playing in it.
I'll give you something we talked about in the Senior Bowl with some folks, that some may be anticipating that the NIL may change the offseason in the NFL. Why? Because you're going to have kids that probably made a couple $1 million while they were in school, and then they're going to get to practice and go say, you know what? I'll run some of the practice with you guys, but I'm not playing in the game.
Yeah,
because he's already got a couple $1 million in the bank. You got my film. You guys can watch my film. Combine's going to come up, and no, I'm not doing any of that, dude. No, you got my film, right? I got all this money. I don't need you guys. You can sign me, and then I can get paid again. I think the NIL deals for some, because some of the agents are telling me also that it's not as lucrative as you think.
It's not at all.
It's not a lot of players that are actually getting the NIL money. So that's what the agents were telling me over in the Senior Bowl, because I asked them, hey, what are you doing with NIL? And one of them was like, I started and I got out because it's really not that they're not
lucrative enough. Right.
Yeah, it's not lucrative enough, and you're not getting that many kids. And then you've got to deal with all the other things, which are the parents and the not the booster, but what is that person called that is like an agent to them? The street agent, right? The guy who's whatever,
the coach, the high school coach, or the 7-on-7 coach, or whatever we call them these days. Look, there's a lot of people sticking their hand out who want a piece of the pie, right? There's no question. Right. But I agree with you. I mean, look, I've done a lot of national reporting now. I've gone and I'm sort of more connected to the college football world in a broader sense than just plugged into Miami. So I am aware of what other NIL collectives and other groups are doing and how much money they're spending. Miami has one of the best ones in college football. I would say Texas, Miami, Florida, up until this fiasco where they tried to sign a guy to $13 million. They had some pretty good deals going. Florida State's collective has actually gotten better. Louisville's is one of the better ones. And I'm gathering this information from talking to the agents that are actually involved in NIL,
right?
The ones who do give a damn. But it's not as widespread as you think.
I didn't know that, by the way. I didn't know that until this week.
That's the misconception, and I'm glad you when it's just like you go to the Senior Bowl, you get exposed to more people, and now you get a stronger opinion because you're around the people who are actually in it. So
that's because when I started in this business, I looked around and I said, okay, all these electronic people just sit on their ass and repeat what's in the damn newspaper, and that's it. And none of them break any news. They break wind and they talk shit. And I'm like, well, then how am I going to find out? Well, then I got to go to the Orlando Classic, and I got to go to the East West and Senior Bowl and the Combine. I got to get into people's faces, or if not, I'm no agent's ever going to call me back. No, I'm never gonna get to know a scout if I don't do that. And then obviously that's how you get information, dude.
Yeah,
That's how you get to know people and stuff, and you sit there and you talk with all kinds of, agents or scouts or whatever, even CFL scouts, dude, that I know. I get a lot of information from even CFL scouts about what's going on because they're bouncing back and forth and they know a lot of people in the NFL. Because that's funny because when you go on these trips, you see the NFL scouts, but you don't realize there's also CFL scouts there too.
Right.
Because the fringe players are the ones that are going to end up in Canada, and they're there. Even in the Senior Bowl, there's going to be a couple guys that are going to end up in the Canadian League because not all of them are going to get drafted. So it's man, it's the only way. Because, dude, what information do electronic people ever break? Pretty much.
You're right. Listen, I've done this I'm going on 26 years now and been around it all. From Major League Baseball, NBA, college football, NFL, and you're right. It's just
I've been one of the very few electronic people that actually get insight and get
you're 1,000% accurate. I agree with you. And look, going to the Senior Bowl every single year. That's why I started going to the college football coaching convention this year. I go to all these 7-on-7s. I'm around the NIL guys and the high school kids. You have to be around to have an ear open. And NIL is great for a lot of these kids that aren't going to really make NFL money. De'Ara King, NIL was the greatest thing for De'Ara King because he wasn't going to go to the NFL and make a boatload of money.
Amen.
He'd be very lucky to play in the Canadian Football League only because of his size, not because of his talent or his ability, because I think he's if a team investing and giving him that opportunity is a risk, right? So I just think for a lot of those kind of guys, this is really good. And I will tell you from talking to John Ruiz earlier this week, I mean, there are more people helping him out now. There is a Canes Connection group that has some big names in South Florida involved, people who are sort of, using John Ruiz's system. They're giving him the money and saying, hey, use this in NIL, though they can advertise for Canes Connection or different little groups that we want. And so between $12 to $13 million now, according to Ruiz, they've spent.
I know he's polarizing and some people like him and some people dislike him or whatever. But listen, man, I commend him because he's giving all kinds of athletes an opportunity to learn about life. And what I mean by it is, it's a strange thing because you'll see somebody graduate from college and they don't know how to write a check.
Right.
They can't read their payroll stub. They have no idea what the different taxes stand for and what's going on. They've never filed for taxes. They've never paid taxes. They don't know what responsibility like that is. And I think that that's the important part. And what I like is he's giving money not just to football players and basketball players. No, dude, there's track athletes, there's lady basketball players, there's tennis players. And then he's doing it at FIU, FAU, Florida State, Florida. So he's spreading the love around to different schools too.
He just hired actually one of the Hurricane former athletes, Morgan Pankow, I think was Tyler Van Dyke's girlfriend. I think he just hired her to work in his farm there because she graduated from UM. And so, there's kids that are getting job opportunities because of him. And so in the long run, that's why Miami's able to get a Javian Cohen, who's a 2-year starter at Alabama, to come in at left guard because, you have people that are helping them get the kind of stuff that they need, that they want in life, to help them in the long run. And that's why
he's doing a lot of good, man. I don't care what anybody says. He's bettering the lives of a lot of young people and helping them set a foundation for their futures too, educationally or fiscally. You know what I mean? But that's to me, that's the kind of stuff that's priceless. And as polarizing as he is, I wish people would put aside that and just look at the common good that he's doing for a lot of those young people.
Well, I think he kind of enjoys the attention a little bit too, the social media attention from the haters. He
goes after him, bro.
He did tell me this week. He said, my dad always told me whether they're speaking good of you or bad of you, if they're speaking about you, that's a good thing, and that's his return on investment. That's the way he views it. The more people talking about him, the better.
That's true.
So very old school mentality in terms of that regard, but he likes it. He loves being in the middle of it. So and we'll see about.
He's a total bulldog. So yeah, he loves it.
And we'll see about this stadium if it ever ends up happening at Tropical Park. But he's going to unveil some plans at the spring game on April 14th at DRV Pink Stadium when Miami has that. So we'll see what those plans are. But That's it. That's all I got for you, bro. That's my my Canes week. I'm so sort of tied into other things right now with SEC, Big Ten. I'm like working all these other stories for the Athletic, but for Canes, I got my eye on the OC. We'll see where it goes. I think, you know, maybe this weekend Mario speeds up the process. It's kind of the way it happened with Gaddis, to be honest. Gaddis came in, did his interview within 24 hours. It was over and done with. So maybe there's lightning in the bottle there where Mario settles on a guy. But my gut tells me, you say, Manny, what's going to happen? I think there's a co-OC sort of sharing of the duties.
That happens a lot in college football, so that's not something anybody should. I don't like it in the NFL, but in college football, I'm fine with it because it's actually been successful several times on different programs. So I really wouldn't be too concerned if you're a Canes fan out there. All right, what do you got working on the Athletic so folks can check you out?
Yeah, we're gonna have a story on junior colleges. You remember how many junior college players used to come out of the NFL and go on to the NFL? Cam Newton's one of them. Aaron Rodgers is another guy. Alvin Kamara was a JUCO guy. A lot fewer JUCO players these days are signing with Power 5 programs, and a lot of that has to do with the transfer portal. So we'll have a story on that early next week about the way junior colleges and recruiting has sort of changed because of the transfer portal. We'll have some roundtable discussions on recruiting for the ACC, the Big Ten, and the SEC that I'll be a part of as well. Some features on 2024 recruits. There's a lot of stuff going on in the Athletic. A lot of good stuff to read. There's a great article, if I could tease it real quick, from Max Olson, who's one of our national writers. I don't know if you saw the headline or not.
Yeah,
but
he's a good writer, by the way. He does a good job.
Max is very good, but the stat that blew me away, and I tweeted this out, from 2017 to 2020, the top 50 quarterbacks in each class, if you just average out how many of them enter the transfer portal, it's 75% of the top 50 high school quarterbacks in the 2017 to 20 class have transferred at least once. So we make a big deal about recruiting a quarterback. Right. The reality is it's changed. It's can you land the quarterback? Can you be the second school? Can you be the second school to get them, or can you be the first school to just get them and have them stay? That's the challenge. So, you know, we talk about recruiting a ton. I think the one thing you can learn from reading stories at The Athletic are little notes and facts like that, because we really do study the sport and trends and things of that nature.
All right, good stuff there. Follow him on Twitter at Manny_Navarro. Manny, as always, appreciate you, man. Have a great weekend.
All right, brother. Take care.
Thank you, sir. There you go. Manny Navarro in our Canes, where Miami Hurricanes report.